good afternoon to my folks. Remember, this is the special of politics, not politics done right. That is our radio show, but this is Egberto off the record special for our paid subscribers. But I said for the next few weeks that I would be doing it for all subscribers because again, we are trying to build our membership, and this is one of the perks. Sunday afternoons or Saturday afternoons with whatever you want to talk about. I always have a subject that I want to start on, and thereafter, within the chat, you can tell me what you want to talk about, or you can give us a call at 281, and let me put that in the screen, or you can give me a call at 281-823-7747. 7747. That's 281-823-7747. And I put it wrong in there, so let's do it again. That is 281-823-7747. There we go. I think that is correct now. W. Hi, Egberto. Hope you and yours are well. Adam from Pennsylvania. Welcome, Adam from Pennsylvania. Welcome. The first few dozens I don't get on the screen, so forgive that. F. Adams, welcome. Adam do. Mark. Marge, KJ, how you doing, Marge? Audra Barnes, welcome aboard. We also have Carly SYR. Teresa Birch, welcome aboard. Dale, thank you for being here. Deborah J. from Virginia. If you have any particular subject that you want me to hit on right away, this is your platform right now. Type it. Jennifer E. Peck from JP, Colorado. Let me see if I can remember what JP stands for. It's not Boulder. What does JP stand for? I just got into town, folks. I'm late. I didn't even put out a message about what time because I just drove in about a couple hours ago from San Antonio, Texas. Went on a road trip with a couple of friends that demanded that myself and my wife take off because of the amount of stuff we've been under. JP stands for, the initials of my name. Okay, gotcha. As I said, I'm just getting started here for folks, and the mind is not fully here. I'm just getting back from San Antonio, and I wanted to get started. All right. Again, let me open the doors here before I get started with what I want to talk about. I want you to tell me if there's anything specific that you want to address that's bothering you, that's driving your ire. Just type it in the chat or give me a call at that number, 281-823-7747. I'll type it back in the chat for anybody who might want to call. And this is how I get started as we try to get more people to join in. Anything you want to talk about, you can tell me, or anything you want me to talk about, qualify, quantify, I just put it in the chat, or give me a call at 281-823-7747. We won't be talking about Epstein. I should have said that up front. Epstein is persona non grata, and the subject is sujeto non grata. So what that means is that we understand that is pretty much a charade. If people want to continue with the charade, that is fine. If something comes of it, that's fine. But what we have to be very concerned about is what will be happening to the poor and the middle class beginning not next year, beginning not in 2026, but you will see it as those of you who have the Medicaid expansion to the affordable, well, but not that one yet, but those of you who are on the exchanges getting your health care. Many people don't know that they are actually on Obamacare, because what was done is that Obamacare was renamed in other states so that they don't think it's Obamacare as they sign up for it. So we have a place like Kentucky that is very dependent on the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care and others, and they call that Kinect, right? I think it's NECT, but it's nothing more than Obamacare by a different name. So again, I'm going to before I start sending my message, I'm going to throw out that offer again. If there's anything specific you want me to talk about before I get into what I was going to talk about, please put it in the chat or go ahead and give me a call at 281-823-7747. Jennifer Epek says, unidentified ICE agents rumored to be getting $30,000 bonuses for arresting or detaining people Is that true? I heard that message as well. Whether it is true or not, I have to say that no credible evidence that I've been able to find points that out. So there's a whole lot of misinformation out there, and that makes a good line, but I can't give you any evidence that says that is true. I do know that these guys are doing a whole lot of stuff that is inhumane. It is not illegal because, again, it is sanctioned by the president who has the authority to do it. But it's illegal, immoral, and it puts a black eye on the United States. But as far as $30,000, I don't think there's merit to that. So I wouldn't go ahead and repeat that because I can't find credible information on that. Anything else anybody wants to know specifically? And by the way, it would be nice. I would love to be able to say, yes, those animals are getting money and that's why they're doing it. No, they're doing it for a regular pay. And what's sad about it is many of the people who form part of the cabal that is really terrorizing our fellow immigrants, they are themselves products of immigrants. And some of them it is just a utter shame. All right. Anything else anybody wants to ask? Anybody else wants to clarify? Christine Anderson, welcome. Vicky Feedback, welcome. Jennifer Peck says, I saw a video on USA Today that a U.S. citizen was able to take in his phone and the officers had said something about 30,000. Yeah. I am not going to say it is an absolute fallacy. I just don't have any evidence that for me to put on radio that is a reality. Okay. I have no evidence for that. And one of the things I want to generate with our program, both our Egberto Off the Record program, as well as our Politics Done Right program, is I want you to feel that when you hear information here, it is backed up by data. I don't want you to say it's backed up by some sort of speculation. Now, there are times that I would say something speculative, but I would let you know that what I'm saying is speculative or inferred based on, some sort of opinion. Adam says, yes, why was ICE given access to all Medicaid recipients and Social Security recipients' data? Are they going to use AI to sift through and identify Democrats or those being treated for mental illness or with unexplained income to round up next? I am pretty sure. And again, remember what I said, I'll tell you when I'm speculating. And this one is an educated speculation, an educated guess, an educated opinion. I think that this administration is so corrupt that when Doge went in to supposedly clean up government and when they took all that data, I will not put it past them to use that data illegally to go ahead and cross-reference to find people to arrest. And here's the reason why. The whole immigration roundup was based on a lie. In other words, when Donald Trump says they're sending us their murderers, they're opening their prisons and sending us their crazy people. And when you saw the border being overrun by people coming from the South, it looked bad on TV and it looked like it was dire straits, right? And then, of course, the Republican governors made it worse by concentrating all these people in cities like New York and Chicago, etc. So if you concentrate all these people in 10 or 15 United States cities, as opposed to having them spread out equitably around the entire country where we have thousands of cities and towns that actually need labor and that these people could be assimilated in, of course, it's going to look pretty bad. And that's what we did. All right. People can say, well, they are here illegally. Yeah, they're here illegally. It's a misdemeanor for them to come here illegally. It's a civil offense. And when we look at many of the rationale and the reasons that a lot of these people are coming over here, America many a times have its footprint in the reason why the border was overrun the way the border was overrun. Today's show is not about the technicalities of all the issues in Central America, South America, and the Caribbean, why a lot of these people were storming the borders. But there are reasons, many of it of our own making, why this has occurred. But when you don't have a president that is interested in promoting critical thinking to the audience, to his people, to his constituents, then what we do is we develop hate. And when we create stories like they're eating our cats and dogs and they're killing our people, when it's the furthest thing from the truth. Americans go overseas. I'm from Panama, Central America. and Americans have gone to Panama and killed Panamanians. Just recently, earlier this or late last year, I think it was, a frustrated man at a tranque, a traffic jam caused by protests, got real mad and got out of his car with a gun and shot and killed 2 Panamanian teachers. And as usual, he was treated with kid gloves as he was taken to jail. And I don't recall what the result is of his case so far. But again, killing a foreigner, killing in one country or another is something that happens infrequently, but every so often happens. It's just something that happens. We do it, others do it, right? Not a condoning or anything of that nature, but not something that we should have allowed to be exploded as Donald Trump did. Hirut Miriam said exactly, to harass people with foreign names regardless of their immigration status is a modus operandi that they're using. In other words, if I am in a crowd and they detect that I have an accent, I become fair game to be questioned by ICE, to be put away by ICE for a few. I believe that is why Trump is going after ActBlue's data. I am not sure why I think they just want ActBlue because ActBlue funds a lot of small candidates, some of whom small and mostly progressive candidates, and they win. Some of them win. And that is the issue. Lock down all the sources of success that others have so that you can remain in power. That is what's a part of it. All right. Anything else anybody wants to mention before I move on? Anybody put a chat message. And again, I love this interaction in that, again, if you have something that you want to know, just let me have it and we'll take it from there. Or you can give me a call at 281-823-7747. I don't want to get started with what I want to talk about till I know that for those that are already here, I've gotten, let's say, here's what I'm going to say. Have gotten the courage to ask or the courage to call in. Let me just let you know, I'm a very nice guy and I don't ever attempt to offend. And also remember, no question is silly. No question is bad. One of the things that have us in the situation that we are in is 2 things. Peer pressure has doing things that we wouldn't want to do, but also too often we are so scared. Too often we're so scared to ask the wrong question because of who we may offend, etc. Well, let me tell you, Egberto, off the record, we are not concerned because we believe people most of the times are in good faith. So please don't be concerned about offending. Please do not be concerned about any of those particular issues. All right. First of all, I want to tell you, if you look at the mainstream media, you would not see a lot of the protests that are occurring every single day on all the ill doings of the Trump administration and all his cabal. Okay? You won't see a lot of that, but it's out there. But this weekend, if you guys notice, those of you who listen to Politics Done Right in the afternoons, on Thursday and Fridays, I had 2 interviews. I wasn't live, but I gave you 2 interviews. I think 2 of the 4 were fresh interviews that I gave. And likewise, for those of you who watch the morning Politics Done Right show on KPFT 90.1 FM and on Substack here, I had an interview that I placed on Friday. And why was that? Like I said, we live in a village. And a couple of friends of mine looked at us and said, you guys have not gone anywhere this year to take a break or anything. And my wife and myself were all but commanded to drive to San Antonio with a couple of very, very dear friends. And I spent a couple of days in not a bread and breakfast. What do you call it? You know what I'm talking about. We spent a couple of days in this place and get a lot of chance to talk and meet people as we move along and go around. We just did a 180-mile drive to San Antonio, about a 200-mile drive to San Antonio. And let me tell you one of the best things that happened to me. Every now and then, you're putting out your message out there and you're out there informing folks and hoping that there are folks listening, etc. And our friends took us to a place on Lake Travis in Austin, Texas. We drove up from San Antonio to Austin, which is just a short drive, maybe an hour or so. And we drove to Austin to a place called the Oasis. And it's sort of a restaurant where it faces Lake Travis, which is on the Texas also has a small river called the Colorado River, not big like the big Colorado River. And we have it dammed up with several dams as well. And one of the lakes is Lake Travis. And we got done eating some chips, and we just wanted to have a drink and get some chips. And after doing that, I said, you know what, I thank you guys, and I wanted to get a location to get us, the four of us, a picture, get a, selfie with all four of us. And I heard somebody just say, Willies. Okay. And I figured there's a lot of people named Willis, so I didn't figure it was me. So then I heard the person again say, Egberto Willies, and he actually rolled his R's, right? And I'm like, oh, that must be somebody I either know or somebody who knows me. So I turned around, and there is this guy. He comes and he said, I told my wife it was you. I told my wife it was you. And I'm like, okay, how you doing, sir? Nice to meet you. And then I'm still trying to figure out why he knows me. And then he says, he lives in Austin, and he says, I listen to your KPFT Politics Done Right program every single morning. Thank you. And, I'll be honest with you. I don't know what the probability is, but the probability of me driving to San Antonio and then from San Antonio to Austin, going to a particular restaurant, just random restaurant. And there's this guy who knows me from watching our Politics Done Right program on a Houston station, KPFT. Of course, we simulcast it here on Substack and YouTube. So he picks it up on one of those, right? And then I just did a selfie with him and asked him to make a few comments, etc. But the fact is that we have reach, and he was saying, he enjoyed the program and he's happy that we're there informing folks about this. So it was a good feeling that that slight probability actually occurred. That means we have a larger coverage than we even thought that we had. And here is the biggest kicker of them all. The young man who called me out, he was also from Panama. And even closer, he was from Colón, the town that I'm from in Panama. So talk about coincidences. And at a random time that we went there, a random time of the day, a random week of the month, it was just amazing to me that occurred. So I want to tell you folks that our message is actually getting out there. And those of us that are doing the work, and when I say those of us, I'm not only talking about myself, I'm talking about you, because when you share our work, when you share our live feeds, when you share our newsletters, when you share all these things, you are actually doing a service to what we believe in. You're doing a service in promoting the policies we know most Americans want. So please remember that. And again, I was very excited when I met this young man, and it really touched me to the core. My wife and my friends who took us there, they were at the table kind of looking in like, what is that all about? When I told them, it was just like, wow, 6 degrees of separation. Now, what I want to talk about, we had all kinds of conversations. When I make these trips, I'm always on. I'll be frank with you. And they give me hell about that. My friends, even my wife, it's like, do you ever turn off? The truth of the matter is, I don't ever turn off. This is what I committed to do. And it is, I always find, no matter what I'm doing, if I'm on vacation, which I haven't had in a while, this short vacation was a well-needed one. But wherever I go, I try to get stories out of that, either with new people, meeting people, asking them questions, etc. As soon as we got into San Antonio, our friends took us to a restaurant that they really love in that part of San Antonio. And we went in there. And we started to, we ordered a couple of things, and the place wasn't full at all. And this is a regular restaurant, kind of restaurant. I don't remember the name of it. And the place wasn't full, and we were kind of a bit shocked. And I asked the lady giving us service if this was normal. She said, no, not really. It's been kind of slow. And then I started to ask her, when did this real drop-off started? Because what I wanted to do is do some sort of a empirical correlation. And she said, oh, well, it's been short. And I think she, by the way I was asking her questions, she sort of felt that I was going to get political And right then she decided to say, okay, but sometimes it gets slow like this. So she started to come back to kind of change the conversation back into, well, it's not like it's not completely out of the ordinary, even though it's out of the ordinary. And I understand she's at a restaurant, and I wasn't going to put her in the position to do political spin or political talking or anything like that. But I just want to say that it is the Trump economy is starting to have an actual effect on just about everywhere. And in this one trip that I made, I could actually see it. I could actually see it not only in how people were buying things, but how people were spending and how people were doing. Let me give an example. I want to lose some weight. I need to lose about 15, 20 pounds. So when we were going on this trip, I told my wife, because she doesn't eat a lot really, and I said, could we split every meal? In other words, every meal that we got, could we just get one meal and split it? It's not only cost effective, but it is also calorie effective, calorie slimming. And she was okay with that. And our friends were okay with us doing that. So it was all good. But what I hadn't realized is when I went to all these areas, just about every single table was doing that. And, I had never quite seen that behavior across a restaurant, with things like a pasta dish being split, a sandwich being split, a personal pizza being split. In other words, still going out for the experience, the ambiance, but because of inflation and much more, having these prices, having these, making these decisions. I just found it fascinating. If you are out there and you've seen that, if you've been seeing that as well, please let me know. I'll be interested in finding out if what I'm seeing, the empirical stuff that I saw this weekend, if it's what it is. And again, like I said, I don't go out myself much in these places. So I thought that's very strange this time around. All right. Before I have some other things to discuss, but Hidut Kidain Midian wants me to do something else. She says, can you please talk about the minority leaders refusing to endorse Zoran, even though his constituents voted for Zoran overwhelmingly? Yes, I will address that. I think we need to talk to Schumer and also to Hakeem Jeffries and let them know that we intend to let them pay a price for not following protocol. Progressives, whenever progressives lose, the mainstream of the Democratic Party, what we call the Democratic establishment, continuously tells us we have the primaries, we decide it, but after it's done, everyone vote blue. Because after all, that's where most of our values are. Vote blue. And during the Bernie Clinton event fiasco, we did that. I was a Bernie delegate. But when it came to when it was all over, even though we thought there's a lot of mishaps that occurred, quote unquote, with that election between Bernie and Hillary, after it was all over, first of all, the people who elected me as a Bernie delegate, a lot of them who helped me become a Bernie delegate. It's very difficult to become a delegate in Philadelphia or wherever the convention is going to be. And those who elected me to be a delegate were mostly Hillary Clinton supporters. And because they knew that the type of delegate would not be a delegate that create angst between groups. In fact, I sat in between Hillary supporters and we talked and we had all kinds of discussion. And for those of you who weren't in the convention proper, there was a whole lot of mess that was getting ready to occur. And many of us in our own delegations, we sort of attenuated a lot of what could have exploded into a ruckus, thing. So I know to the core what losing when you think you had what was necessary to win and you lost because you felt there were other forces working. And we still came out, voted blue. If you take a look at my blogs at Daily Kos, if you take a look at my blogs at egbertowillies.com, I made sure and supported with fact-based information, but supported Hillary Clinton 100%. I spoke to our left flank and I told I gave reasons for our left flank to elect and vote for Hillary Clinton. we were going to vote blue. And that has occurred not only with Bernie, but it has occurred with candidate after candidate. Whenever a progressive loses, we come back into the fold and support them and support them and support them. Mandani did not only win New York. Mandani won New York in a landslide. 56% when all machinations were done. 56%. And that is that he won that 56% without consolidating two of his major constituencies, and that is the Black vote and the Latino vote. So what you think's going to happen when he further goes ahead and brings his message to these groups that they're trying to align right now? Of course, Mandami has a good chance with his message, with the honesty, with his freshness, with his youth to win it all. And what does he do when the leaders of the party were not supportive of him after running a campaign that he won decisively? Who is creating dissension in the party? They're scared of that word, democratic socialists. They better get with the program, because the successful nations today with the happiness base and healthcare, etc., that's who they are. They're all following the democratic socialist model. Mr. Mandami is not trying to go ahead and make Democratic Party go ahead and say we are democratic socialists. He's not going to do that. He doesn't have to do that, nor should he do that, nor should he want to do that, because these monikers are just that, monikers. If we effect the policies that protect Americans, if we effect the policies that give people health care, if we effect the policies that give people child care, if we effect the policies that give people a basic income to prevent poverty, if we effect the policies to ensure Social Security is solvent, if we invoke all those policies, Americans are going to say, thank you. That is what we want. Guess what? Let me tell you what undergirds those particular policies. If one were to define those policies, one would say, oh, that's it. That's what democratic socialism look like. And it doesn't stop the private pizza shop. It doesn't stop the big food company. It doesn't stop any of that. All it does is it ensures that we have equitable, not equal, equitable distribution of resources for everybody. All right. So that is very much what we have here. So what I would do for those of you who are in New York that have clout, I am not. If Hakeem does not support Mandami and Chuck Schumer does not support Mandami, I will use my resources along with, I know others will use their resources to really make sure that Hakeem Jeffrey is challenged for Speaker of the House if the Democrats, or I should say when the Democrats take over the House in 2026. And I will work my off to convince others from electing Schumer as the majority leader or the leader of the Senate. And I think we ought to come out and let it be known. You must endorse the Democratic pick of your people. The people have selected Mandami. Who the hell is Hakeem Jeffrey and Chuck Schumer to think they know better than the people who are doing it? And I agree with you, Hirut, Kide, Marian. I love your suggestion even more because it has immediate impact, Hirut. You have immediate impact. Withhold all donations to the Democratic Party until the leader of the Democratic Party, meaning at this point, Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer endorses Mandami. I love that, Hirut. Remember, I always say things. You guys are so smart, and we get better ideas when we all put it together. So everybody, listen. I want you to follow Hirut Kidain Medi's lead. Withhold any contribution to the DSCC, the DCC, the RCC, all of them until they support the blue candidate out of New York. And it is true as well. One of the things is because he's anti-genocide, and I cannot see how any Democrat can stand for the genocide that is occurring in Israel in Gaza right now. with a straight face. Torres made a fool of himself earlier this weekend when he denied a genocide by simply bringing up October 7th. October 7th is horrendous. October 7th was a terrorist attack. 1,200 innocent Israelis lost their lives, and we mourn their deaths. We mourn them. But the genocide that is occurring in Gaza does not honor our dead Israeli brothers and sisters. I repeat, the genocide in Gaza does nothing to honor the deaths, the forced sacrifice of our dead, murdered Israeli brothers and sisters at all. So we're missing the boat. Adam, that sounds just like Biden not stepping away from a one-term presidency as promised. Exactly. Bill Maher, as much as I'm no longer a fan, was calling him Ruth Bader Biden. I agree. Chuck Schumer will not let go of the power, and his own ambitions will continue to sink us all. No, again, let me just say something, Adam. And I'm going to use a story from this weekend to talk about the power that we really have. So while Chuck Schumer will not let his power go, we can take the power from Chuck Schumer. We have the power to take it from Schumer. We can get the Senate to get rid of Schumer as leader. We have the power to do so. We don't exert it, but we do. I'm going to tell a little side story, and I hope we can use this as an example in some sort of a way. A friend of mine said this over the weekend. There is a USAA insurance company. I think it's usually an insurance company, insure cars, homes, etc. But you have to be a veteran, I believe, or attached to a veteran to use that policy. Now, they advertise it as, veteran friendly, in honor of veterans, all that kind of stuff. And supposedly their profits are paid back to whatever profits they have is paid back to those people who get the policies, who get the insurance, right? So his son, when they were comparing policies, they found that, yes, thank you, Deborah J., also federal employees. They found out that Progressive, the insurance company Progressive, their rates were 33% less than that of USAA. And I kept on, I wanted to make sure I heard correctly. So I asked again, I said, are you absolutely sure for a comparable insurance policy that Progressive was better than, or not better, was 33% cheaper than the USAA policy, line for line? Deduction, he said yes. So I called USA, I said, my God, these people are getting people to get that insurance based on loyalty to veterans and under the pretense that because they're for veterans, things work out better for veterans. And, so I said, that is the utter evil. These people are using, like so many others, are using our veterans to make a buck. That's evil. Then my friend said, that's a bit harsh. And I said, harsh? So I said, one of the problems that the middle class and the poor, and even some in the upper middle class, continue to be under the boot of the plutocracy, the oligarchy, the wealthy, is because they have conditioned us to believe that what they're doing is right, is righteous, that what they're doing is the only way it's done or the way it should be done. So I said, the thing that harms us the most is when the conned is there protecting the conner. When the conned is there protecting those who con them. And we find that so often with the Republican Party. The Republican Party continuously con its members, continuously screw its members, continuously screws its voters. And when confronted, one of the things that they always do is they try to protect the conner. They try to protect those who cause them harm. I don't want to call it an illness, but it's something that is very hard to overcome. And he took exception when I said that. And he said, no, you have to remember that USAA gives back after they take out their expenses. Everybody gets a check because we are the old, people who buy insurance are the partners in the USAA thing. I said, yeah, but they're the ones who go ahead and hire they hire all the people that give the services. The salespeople are there making a profit on every sale. And And he said, yeah, well, they have salespeople. Progressive is all automated. And I'm like, and these people have a 33% premium on if you buy from them, and they're made for veterans. That is not right. That is screwing veterans. That is screwing the people that you're using as your advertising spiff to even get more people. Hey, if they're there using the veterans moniker, they must be better. Now, when it comes tying that back to Adam and Schumer, we have to stop ceding ground to those we think are more powerful, because they're not. Nobody, the power in this country comes from the numbers of people that you can have with an idea, and preferably with a successful idea. But you have to have the throughput. It's not enough that more people support progressive policies, which is the truth. More people support progressive policies. Very few people support conservative policies. That's a statement of fact. So why is it that we don't get those policies? Because the politicians listen to the people who give them money. Because even as those people give them money to screw their voters, they help them convince their voters that being screwed isn't what's really occurring. Again, and how do they do that? I go back to the discussion with my friend. Once I made a harsh statement about an insurance company that is ripping off veterans and government workers, when another insurance company can give a hell of a deal, that tells you something important. That tells you that there is something within your psyche that your first response is to support that entity that is screwing you. And how do you teach yourself that, first of all, independently, you have the power to fix your mindset, to critically think. You have the power to choose critical thinking. But secondly, in critical thinking, one would see that the reason we push rugged individualism in this country isn't to make you free or to be a rugged individual. That's not the reason we preach rugged individualism, because the corporations and others sure as hell don't practice rugged individualism. We'll go with that in a little bit later. But if we practice rugged individualism, it means we do not generally act collectively. And the thing is, to make those senators follow us, we have to work collectively. Example, if the lobbyist is giving this guy $100,000 for his race, and we are not acting collectively, we just buy into the little things the gauntlets that he throws out there, and then we go ahead and vote for him anyway. He has no incentive to do what we ask. He only has the incentive to do what the lobbyists ask him to do. But if we forget about rugged individualism and stop trying to be perfect on every single issue and go ahead and say we will work collectively to oust those who don't follow what we have asked for collectively, watch how the papers are turned. Not every race is run or is won with money. When you can work collectively on an issue, you have no other option but to win. And that is what so many people fail to realize. So in talking to people all around and hearing folks say things are never going to change, those are self-fulfilling statements. Change is an action word. You have to make change to have change. You have to change your psyche. You have to have in your mind that I have the opportunity to critically think. And if I critically think, I will come out with the right answers. And if I critically think collectively with others, I can actually make change. And what the plutocracy is dependent on, because remember, the plutocracy is so much smaller than the rest of us. In fact, it is tiny relative to the rest of us. Their bet is that they can put enough angst between you and me between you and your mama, between you and that Chinese person, between you and that other Asian person, between you and that Latino, between you and that black person, between you and reproductive rights, between you, that they can throw so many of those permutations in there that what they have is the inability for you to work collectively to effect a particular policy. One of the things that I am intent on doing with our program here is to try to encourage us to use that power of our brain to critically think, and not only to critically think, but also to stand back. And at times, even if we're not in 100% agreement, come up with consensus collectively and make change as one. The collective body making change as one. This isn't rocket science. This isn't highfalutin dreams. This is how change is made. And we've done it before. We have actually done this before, and we can do it again. And it is time to do so now. And for those who are fearful that we are going into a fascist state and that protests and other issues are going to be held back, etc., my answer to you is this. First of all, the enforcers of the fascist state, because of the way we are laid out, is not going to be as smooth sailing as those who are the leaders in our current fascist state would believe. And the reason why is every one of these folks have brothers, sisters, etc., that if one gets to them, they are going to be very careful in the way they effect their fascist doings. I guarantee you that. So we have a lot of work to do, but collectively, it is work that we can do. And that's what I really wanted to put out there today on my part. And if there is anybody that wants to put a chime in there, give me a call. Give me a call at 8. Let me get the phone number and copy paste it in there again. Give me a call at 281-823-7747. I love hearing from you guys. Again, that is 281-823-7747. Or if you have anything else you want me to talk about, throw it into the chat. On the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, I think I spoke about the genocide before. America is complicit now, and this is where collectively we have to force our leaders to stop supporting by supplying the armament of genocide to Israel. It is something. Is there a comparison to be made there? The Palestinian, yeah, absolutely, Adam W. Everything that I just said about critical thinking and working collectively has everything, sir, to do with what we can do as well with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. But we have to do it collectively. And the politicians have to see they will pay a price for going with, let's say, the defense industrial complex and all the elements that work with them. They will have to pay a price. And when they find that out, if they want to stay in office, you'll be surprised how quickly they change their tunes. How quickly. All right, folks, we're coming down close to where I end this. So give me a call at para ver el número. It is 281-823-7747. Repeating, that is 281-823-7747. Adam says, at the DNC, the Harris campaign would not allow a single Palestinian American voice to take the stage. That was to put it as nice as I can, and I don't like to use this word, but it was a stupid move. It cost her Michigan. It's not like Donald Trump was going to be any better, but the Democratic Party is supposed to be better. It cost her the election. It cost her Michigan, not the election, but that likely cost her Michigan because a lot of the delta that she lost in Michigan was likely the Muslim vote. And when you treat some folks as less than, which is exactly what we are doing with the Gazans, we are treating them as less than human, and that is sad. That is absolute sad. All right, folks, number is, again, 281-823-7747 if anybody wants to call. Or if you have anything else like Adam W. and Kat and Hirut has placed into the chat, anything else that you want me to discuss before we leave in the next 3 or 4 minutes. But while we wait for the next 2 or 3 minutes or so, I'd like to tell you one of the reasons that I've opened this Sunday to others was to encourage you to become a paid subscriber. If you're not, are all of you in the chat paid subscribers? If you're not, I'd really like to ask you ever so kindly to consider becoming paid subscribers of our Egberto Off the Record by becoming a paid subscriber of the newsletter. Let me tell you, you don't only get the newsletter that I send out several times. I send out these newsletters with new subjects, etc. But you also get to read all of the 5 books that I've written on Substack. Get to read it there. And all subsequent books that I write, you will have access to on Substack by becoming a paid subscriber of our newsletter. Most importantly, what you will do is allow me to continue promoting this progressive message, continue enlightening folks on what's really occurring, what's really fake, etc., and also put our message in every platform. I want you to know we are, in fact, on every platform. I mean, what we do is we're on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Blue Sky. We're everywhere. Twitter. We are absolutely everywhere. Both our literature, our books, our articles, our shorts, our short videos, long videos. We are out there pushing this message forcefully 7 days a week throughout the day. And we can only continue doing this if we get the support that we need. We're several hundred away from break even, and we've been doing this for a while now. So what we'd love to ask you to do, those of you who have the wherewithal to become paid subscribers, by going to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. I guarantee you would be investing in making us better. I'm one cog in many of us doing this work to ensure that we can get our message out and inform people. Our next program at Politics Done Right is at 6 a.m. Central every weekday morning, Monday through Fridays, 6 a.m. Central. And of course, 3 p.m. Central, we have another version of the Politics Done Right show. So we do Politics Done Right twice a day, 5 days a week between Monday and Fridays. And I am sure those of you who know it, you are a part of it entirely. Hirut Kidain Median says, and you are among the best. I thank you so kindly for that thought. That touches my heart. That along with what happened today, being in another city and somebody just coming up and say, I listened to your program, it makes your day because you feel like you're accomplishing something. Thank you so kindly, Hirut. And again, folks, please go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter to become paid subscribers. I want to thank you for your time. I know your time is valuable. Continue to read our newsletters. If you're not signed up, go ahead and do so. We'll continue to do the work. We'll continue to inform. We'll continue to tell the truth and also be accurate. Be accurate. No conspiracies, none of any of that. Just letting it be known how things really are. I thank you for your time. My name is Egberto Willies, and I'm out.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.